What's up, y'all? My name is Mark. Welcome back to Studio 305. 2024 is done, yeah, and we are in the very first month of 2025. Who knows what 2025 is going to bring? However, it's always crucial to know what you've done in that past year so that you can have a sense of direction in the new year. And in this specific video, I'm going to share some of the best lessons, or one of the best lessons that I've learned in my past few years of photography as a professional photographer. Now, if you know me well, you know I started doing photography 3 years back in 2021. Fast forward to today, but I started doing professional photography in 2024 when it's coming to the end, because ever since I had bought the camera, I had never felt like I was doing real photography for myself. I would say that I understand so many people out there sometimes see the images and appreciate, they leave a comment, they leave a like. But then, as a photographer, you do remember the first time you thought of, purchasing your first camera. And it really was a hard time for me, I would say, but I eventually did it, because you know how things go. You have to just dive straight in, So I had to choose whether I wanted this career, and I was lacking all the necessary skills that you might need to venture into this field. But luckily I had the right people to talk to. I had the people to help me out with the funds, and luckily in February 2021 I received my 6D Mark II, the one that has been to every photography journey. I have never owned a second camera. This is the only camera that I've ever owned. I've only been switching lenses depending on the gig. But then there is one thing I've had to learn the hard way in the past 1 year of my professional photography. And a lot of photographers out there, they don't focus on this specific trait, but it's a very important trait, because as far as this specific career is concerned, you do need to keep the people that you work with. You're not going to work for everyone, because every day there are photographers coming out. There is someone buying better equipment than you, and they might actually even have the skill, or they might not take the same time that you took to maybe harness your photography skills. So that one lesson is social capital. Yeah, it's not equipment. It's not like skill. It's not. I know those are also very key, but I feel like you need to connect with the people. We are in a time or era in time whereby people are valuing candid relationships. It doesn't matter who you are, as long as you make them feel like, you're being real to them, and you're giving it your all. Trust me, they will think about you anytime they want to reach out to a photographer or even company, and that's very key. One of my great friends and a mentor, Sharif Photography, shared a fact one day, and it really caught my eye. The fact, it was a meme, but it was talking about photographers, and it mentioned that in every 4 photographers, one of them is always mentally ill. Yeah, in every 4 photographers, that means in every 10 there is 2 or 3. Now that's a very big number, because so many photographers are popping out, and new equipment comes along. So the fortune will always favor those who are in the field. So if you're getting into this photography career, I know you've talked to some people, some who have done photography for a long time, and normally the answers are the same. because they'll always tell you you need this type of camera, you need a 4K camera, you need a telephoto lens, you need lights, but I promise you all that equipment will mean nothing to the people if you can't connect with them. I'll give you a scenario. I started photography in 2021, and a month after I had purchased my first camera, one of my friends reached out to me. She was a client in my previous business. If you know me, you know what I'm talking about. I used to deal in electronics at Equatorial Mall, and this client was really invested in helping me start my career because she had seen how I was doing business. I had supplied her with appliances in her home, and she was like, you know what, I believe you'll deliver the same kind of bespoke service that I expect from you because I've already worked with you. I know how you work and I know everything about you. So hopefully we don't get off the wrong foot. As you know, I needed the job, I needed the money. I had invested millions into this equipment because I purchased everything of mine that I bought was new, and I am not proud of it, but I ran myself bankrupt. But it was for the good cause, and trust me, 3 years down the road, I do not regret any single decision that I made. So back to the client. She reached out, I accepted the job, we agreed on dates. It was her son's birthday. I showed up with my friend. We, everything, we did everything we could. We took the images, as many photos as possible. We even agreed on coming back the next day to shoot a little documentary for the kid because, when you just started out in photography, you want, you're always invested and you want to make sure that the client, thinks of you whenever they think of a photographer. So we showed up, we did the job, we were on time, everything was going smoothly, and we came to the time of deliverance. I did not know I didn't know a single thing on how, you were supposed to work with the client after the event. I had the equipment, so it was easy for me to show up and take photos. Of course, you could just switch the camera to automatic mode. And since, you're a new photographer, at the back of your mind, you think the money that I'm supposed to ask for shouldn't be that scary, but at the same time, it shouldn't be under budget. So I kept my price in between, and when it came to delivery, I realized that I had promised more than I had budgeted for. I had promised the client an A4 photo book with over 200 photos, and I had also promised her 200 soft copies. I promised her a portrait of the son. But if you're to look into that, I would have worked because I charged her around $100, and almost 90% of that was going into post-production. First of all, I didn't know how to edit. Later on, I didn't even have my own computer, but I had the images. I had to pay the editor, I had to pay printing, I had to pay for the portrait, I had to pay for the guy that I worked with. I mean, if you're to think about all those expenses, you can tell that I was working under a very fixed budget, but I wanted to deliver. And I remember after delivering the pictures, the client of course had complaints. As you know, you can't be perfect on your very first gig. So the client was like, hey, I love the photos. Well, I understand you tried, but it started with the portrait. So the portrait that I brought to the office for the son to, for his special day, it had someone in the background, and she requested I go back and edit out the kid. But remember, I had already spent money on the board, and God knows how much money I had left, and I know it was less than 100,000. So it was very hard for me to go back, and this is what I did. I had delivered the photos, I delivered the portrait. Good thing is I didn't leave with the portrait that I had delivered. So I was like, you know what, screw this, I'm not going to do anything else. And I just went into ghost mode with the client. So after a few months, she reached out and she was like, sarcastically of course, she was like, hey Musa, I hope you're doing well. Thank you for delivering everything that you promised. And yeah, thank you, that's all. Now, at the back of my mind, I was like, okay, she said thank you, but I know she doesn't mean it, yeah. And over the years, I experienced the worst kind of relationship between me and my friend, who started as a friend and client, and then we ended up not speaking ever again. So, brings me back to my lesson. Whenever you're dealing with clients, besides the equipment and your career being a dope photographer, the kind of photos that you take, make sure you understand what the client is expecting from you, because once you deliver what they're expecting from you, you might deliver something that you think is more than what they asked for, but they will always have that, that thought at the back of their mind of what they really want to be portrayed. So normally I would advise you get down to a round table, sit with the client, understand what they expect from you, and that way you can deliver something that is not going to become a problem in the future as far as your relationship is brought into the picture with the client. So kindly, if you're a photographer out there, I hope this video will make sense. And if you're out there, I promise you it's a very, very big spectrum of a career. Don't be afraid to start. Pick up that money, go to the store, buy the camera that you can afford at the moment. Start taking pics, put your work out there. Normally, when we get the camera, we take the pics, and every image almost, when you're starting out in photography, there are around 3 stages. There is the stage of being naive. That one is the worst, because I think that's where they base the fact that in every photographers rather, there is always one dealing with mental health issues. And I believe all those upheavals come up in the very first stage of photography, whereby you purchase equipment that costs a lot of money, and then you start looking at the world as, where do I get the jobs? Where do I go? What do I shoot? What niche should I do? And over the years, you start realizing the images that communicate more with your vision. So it's not advisable to break in the very first stage, because you haven't even got to the worst part of the career, which is stage number 2. Stage number 2 is when you realize that you bought a camera, you have the lenses, you have the good images, you might as well even have the clients, but then you start noticing people that are better than you, because as you do photography, you start engaging with other photographers. You get to see their equipment. Oh my goodness, there is one time that I was chosen as the third wheeler photographer. You know how these rich and wealthy people be. And that was in my very first stage of photography. I got this friend of mine, a very prominent photographer. Some of you know him. He invited me to do an event with him at Serena Hotel. Big event. I mean, it was full of wealthy people, so we had to represent. And I remember I pulled up, and we had over 3 teams. They had hired over 3 teams, and one of those teams was Gary Pictures. Now, I'm not the kind of person that keeps a lot of track with, other photographers, because I don't want my vision to be blurred. I want my photography to take a very virgin path, of its own. I don't want to look at other photographers' work, because it somehow discourages and encourages, but most of the time it discourages you. You start, getting this thought at the back of your mind that, I want to take such pictures. So you end up losing your originality, of which this is a field of originality. You have to be original, because your photos will stand out that way. Now, we got to the event and we had other prominent photographers, but I showed up, and that's one thing that most of my colleagues that I work with like about me. Outside here, I'm a very shy guy, but when it's time to pull the trigger, bro, I really show up, and I'm always locked in, and I always, find a liking for these professional photographers. Some even reach out and think I'm an international photographer, but then I'm just your, hometown guy. And back to the point, we really, that can be a very challenging kind of stage, and which leads to the third stage of the career, whereby you now have the equipment you need. You have a few clients that can, get you set in a couple of months. You expect a call from them, because you actually develop this kind of portfolio, and when your pics are good enough, or when your work is good enough, definitely, they're always going to think about, that's the stage where you even get the quote that, there is that meme that is making rounds on social media, where a photographer posted that there is no better kind of fulfilling, moment, like when the client, they invite you for a gig, you show up with the equipment, and they don't even mind what you do. They know you're there, and you're going to deliver even more than the expectations. Now, that's the third stage, and it's a very good stage. We all long for that stage in our career, but then that's where you either make it or break it, because it's all about waking up, shooting, edit, go to sleep, wake up, shoot, edit, go to sleep. It's at that point, it's not even about the money anymore. Yeah. So most of the photographers who have been in the field for a long time know what I'm talking about. And luckily, I got to pass through all those stages with my stoic mentor, and I thank God that I'm here today, plus my supporters, everyone out there who, speaks about my brand whenever they are with other people they know that I don't know. Shout out to you guys, and you keep me going, which makes me wonder, what are we doing 2025? Yeah, about that, I know you all have been waiting for me to talk about it, and of course we have something planned. But before we get into that, I want to give a big shout out to my sponsors. If you've been following my socials and my YouTube channel, you've realized that Studio 305 took a tourism turn. That's because actually, which justifies my point that I made at the beginning of the video, that I've had the camera for 3 years, but then I would only count 2024 as my professional and very first year of doing photography. Yeah, so last year I got a contract, luckily, with a tourism company that is such a great team. I mean, the way they handle their stuff, the way they work with other people, the way they, get you involved is super amazing. And that's one of the reasons as to why I invested in photography. Yeah, photography is a very tricky and rewarding career, because once you're there and you've started catching the eye of a few, targeted clients, I would say, you get to a point where people don't just want to call you and take pics. You get to a point where people know you and everyone likes you, and you get this corporate approval on events and stuff like that. But then I'm in it for the connection. That's why I'm even making this video, yeah. But shout out to my sponsor, Jannah World Maps, great team. We do have a trip coming up on Valentine's Day, so be sure to be a part of it. And in case you want to know more about the trip and the timetable, you can comment in the comment section. You can reach out to my emails. I can add you to the WhatsApp groups so that you never miss a thing. It's a great team. They always, check on their clients. They always have something new that they are cooking for the clients. So be sure that you're in safe hands, and they can always tailor for you a very great experience as far as the field of tourism is, talked about. So feel free to reach out to Jannah World Maps, and if you haven't subscribed, here is the time. Happy 2025. This is not my first video, so although it's the first time I'm officially saying Happy New Year, so I can't wait to see you all on the trips, and I can't wait to show you what Studio 305 is going to have in plan. Just be on super alert. We have a lot that we are cooking, and I promise you're going to be able to experience a lot of new things, some that will be coming from you guys yourselves. But if you haven't, kindly hit the subscribe button and like the video, leave a comment, turn on the bell so that you never miss a single video from me. I remain Mark, and I sign out. Peace.